Hi, friends. How are you? Welcome to Championship Bowling from Fates Neeson Recreation at Ridge and Clark in Chicago. Our match should be a dandy. We have for you, first of all, a fellow who is coming back here so often it almost seems as though he belongs to the place. He has shot 729, 719, and 737. Eddie-Kawolics. Come on out, Eddie.
Hi, Joe.
Out after that banquet money again?
Oh, we're going to try.
Well, it's going to have to be a good try because we have a man here who in 1952 won the ABC doubles, the ABC all events, was voted the bowler of the year in 1952 from Cleveland, Steve-Nagy. How you doing, Steve?
Not bad.
Good. And as much as you are new here, I'll explain to you how it works. Steve, the winner gets $200, the loser gets $100, and the winner gets to come back next week for another crack at that money, and it's based on total pins over the three-game set. Is that clear? In addition to which, you can get $25 for winning each individual game, which could give you $75 more. Then, should you roll a perfect 300 game on this show, that's worth $1,000. That ought to be easy. You've done that before. And I think that just about tells the story. Have we had the toss of the coin?
Well, I won the toss.
Well, you fooled me last week, so I'm going to ask you which one you want to start on.
Well, I'm going back to my original 5 alley and finish on 6.
Start on 5, finish on 6. Good luck to both of you. Good bowling.
Thank you.
Okay, let's have at it. Eddie-Kawolics, who will start on 5, finish on 6. Eddie elected, you may remember, last week against Joe Christoph to start on 6 and finish on 5, although 6 is his favorite alley. But he did it because he felt Christoph was more effective on 5, having bowled here for a number of years, and he wanted to take that alley away from him. On 5. And he's got it. He's got it for his strike. For you novices, I might point out that if you start on 5 and finish on 6, it means you have 5 shots on 5, assuming you strike on every one, and a possibility of 7 on 6, which gives you the advantage of the alley you like. Nagy on 6. Terrific tail on that ball, and he's got a strike to match it. This is going to be a very, very interesting match. Nagy with a strike, Kawolics with a strike. We are going to watch this very, very carefully. Certainly I am, because we might see quite a story here. Kawolics is not feeling too well today. We don't want to apologize for him in advance, but he has had a little trouble loosening up. His back and his legs have seemed a little weak, or so he thinks. Nagy on 5. Ooh, that 5 pin's still standing, so he'll have to settle for a spare there if he can get it. And so, Eddie might possibly not be quite up to form physically. Nagy, by the same token, although he has never seen these alleys before and should possibly be balanced that way, likes them. On 5 for the 5. Ooh, he just got that. That ball blooped a little bit as he let go of it, so it's a spare for Steve-Nagy and gives him 20 pins through the first and a spare up. Eddie-Kawolics started out with a strike, and that means Eddie moves over to 6. Eddie strung 7 here against Christoph. Almost went for that $1,000 in that perfect game. On 6. And he's got it for a double. It's a double for Eddie-Kawolics against Steve-Nagy's 20 through the first frame and the spare up. And as you see Clarence Gelt's marking there, he has put a +1 under Kawolics. That means that Kawolics has 1 mark, or roughly 10 pins. A mark is worth about 10 pins, give or take 2, 3, or 4, whatever the individual case might be. You'll be able to keep up with the score, I hope, with this indication. So that Kawolics now leads by 10 pins. Eddie on 5. This is the tougher of the two for Eddie, but not much. Ooh, and he comes up with a 7-10 rail, about which you can do practically nothing. So there is the first crack in the armor of these two thus far. And as Eddie said, 3rd frame again. When he has had a bad ball in his past matches here, oftentimes it has turned out to be the 3rd frame. Eddie's going to go after that 10 pin. going cross alley issues. No, he's hooking for the 7. I thought he was lined up to go for the 10. But instead, he played it on the inside of the alley and just hooked into it. So Eddie-Kawolics settles for 56 through the 3rd and nothing going for him. Steve-Nagy with 20 through the 1st and a spare up. And Steve is down 8 pins rather, through the 1st frame. But he has a chance to get well here. Is he going to hook in? Is he going to get in? Boy, he did. Man, he puts an awful tail on that ball. I didn't think he'd ever get up for that. So Steve-Nagy strikes in the 3rd, and that gives him 40 pins through the 2nd, and a strike working for him to Eddie-Kawolics, 47 through the 2nd, and 56 through the 3rd, and nothing going for him. So Nagy is down 7 pins through the 2nd, but of course with that strike, he has a chance to move away here now. Steve on 5. There it is. It's a double for Steve-Nagy. Gee. Interesting style he has here. So Steve-Nagy with 40 through the 2nd and a double up. Kawolics with 56 through the 3rd and nothing working for him. And Eddie will move over to 6 now. Eddie-Kawolics, who first knocked off Carmen Salvino, then Don Carter, and then Joe Christoph. He's high. He's in on the nose, and he just missed 4, 6, 7 rail there. As it is, he has the 4, 7 to go for, and has a chance to stay alive here. Although what Eddie needs at the moment on the heels of that railroad is all the strikes he can get. In his practice before this match, Eddie didn't seem to be quite as consistent as he has in previous weeks. Eddie on these alleys is almost as sure as death in Texas. After the 4, 7, and has him for his spare. All right. That gives Eddie-Kawolics 56 through the 3rd and a spare up. Steve-Nagy with 40 through the 2nd and a double going for him, and Kawolics is down 14 pins, as you see. We hope you novices will be able to pick up how the scoring is done here. Briefly, a strike is worth 10 plus everything you get on your next 2 balls. A spare is worth 10 plus everything you get on your next 1 shot. Moving over to 5, Eddie-Kawolics now. Boy, that's there. That's there. He found the range on that one all right. So Eddie-Kawolics will mark up 76 through the 4th with a strike going for him. Steve-Nagy with 40 through the 2nd and a double for him, and Steve is leading by 14 pins. Steve on 6. Watch this ball whip. He goes right down the line and then puts that tail to it. That time he came in a little high, but he got a cave in there, and it's a turkey for Steve-Nagy. And you will notice that Clarence Geltz is marking in 70 pins with that double out in front of Nagy. Now, for you expert bowlers, this is done for the novices so they can follow the score a little better. The bowlers have agreed that they will not be jinxed by this practice and have gone along with it for those who don't understand it quite as well. All right, Nagy on 5. He has strung a turkey. How about this? He looks light. He looks light. And he is. He leaves the 2-4-5. That ball blooped as it left his thumb, and I don't think came off quite the way he wanted it to. Steve-Nagy, I asked him before we went into this match how he liked the alleys, and he said, "Oh, these are fine." He said, "You get your confidence back on these." I asked him which one he liked the better. He said he didn't see much difference between them. He didn't hook that time. He didn't hook, and he left the 2-4 standing. So Steve-Nagy has an open on an error, and that should pretty well even up things here. As Steve-Nagy has 123 through the 6th and nothing going for him. Eddie-Kawolics with 76 through the 4th and a strike working for him. Eddie is down 2 marks at the moment, but he has a chance to get him down. Get him back. He's down 21 pins through the 4th. That's the way to get him. That's the way to get him. It's a double for Eddie-Kawolics. And this will help things immeasurably, and that, to all intents and purposes, evens it up, give or take 1 or 2 pins. Kawolics with 76 through the 4th and that double. Nagy with 123 through the 6th and nothing working for him. Eddie moving over to 5 now. We were telling you about Nagy's record in the ABC. Eddie has set some, too, in that same great American Bowling Congress event. Eddie on 5. There it is. There it is for a turkey for Eddie-Kawolics. And Eddie, after that railroad, is fighting back here. And that gives him 106 through the 5th and a double out in front of him on a string of 3. Steve-Nagy with 123 through the 6th and nothing working for him. Nagy up 9 pins through the 5th. There is his strike. There is his strike. But Kawolics' string there will even things up here. And as you see, Clarence has now marked him up 1 mark, or roughly 10 pins. Steve-Nagy moving over to 5. ABC and all-star rules prevail here, which means that the men will finish and start on the same pair in the same order through the entire set. Nagy on 5, and again he is light, and he leaves the 2-5 this time, in contrast to the 2-4-5 the last time, and this is the alley on which he picked the 5 off the 2-4-5 combination for a blow. So Steve-Nagy this time will try to get the 2-5. Starting inside, and he's going from the inside after them this time instead of cross alley, and carries them. All right, for a spare. So Steve-Nagy then has 143 through the 7th and a spare up. Eddie-Kawolics with 106 through the 5th and a double out of front of him working on a turkey. Eddie-Kawolics getting ready here. Total pins, the 3-game match, decides the winner and the loser. The winner to get $200, the loser $100, with $25 in addition, riding on each game. Eddie working on a string of 3. Now it is 4. Now it's 4. Boy, oh boy, Mr. Kawolics seems to have found the range again, as Eddie now moves up by 2 marks, or 23 pins, showing 136 through the 6th and a double out in front of him to Steve-Nagy's 143 through the 7th and a spare up. Eddie moving over now to alley 5. Eddie, if memory serves me, has never won his first game in all the weeks he's been on here. That's right, he never has. Just got that one to string 5 in a row, and that big strike in the 9th frame. So Eddie now shows 166 through the 7th and 2 out in front of him still. Steve-Nagy with 143 through the 7th and a spare up. Steve is down 23 pins. Steve in the 9th frame on 6. Look at that whip. Look at that whip. Boy, he puts a tail to that. Right down the line and then whammo into that pocket, giving Steve-Nagy 163 through the 8th and a strike working for him. He is down 33 pins as Eddie-Kawolics has 166 through the 7th and a double out in front of him. Steve has a possibility here for 223 if he can go all the way. First ball on the 10th. And he is light again. He's light again. And that rolling pin isn't going to get that 5. That king pin is standing there just as bravely as possible. Steve has kind of lost the range on this alley. His shot doesn't seem to be quite what it should be on this alley, and he is light on it. Left the 5. If he gets it, he has another ball. There it is. There it is. Give him one more shot. All right, that gives Steve 183 through the 9th and a spare up in the 10th frame. He has a chance for a 203 game here, which is all right. Last shot on 5 in the 10th frame. This time he comes in on the nose, leaving the 6, 7, 10, and he is definitely fishing on this alley. So that will cut him down to 200 even, and Steve-Nagy winds up with 200. It's still a good start. Eddie-Kawolics with 166 through the 7th and a double out in front of him. He is working on a 5-bagger. Eddie with a chance here for a 253 game. On 6. There it is. There it is. That's that first big one in the 10th frame, and Mr. Kawolics can move away to a commanding lead here with 196 through the 8th and the first strike in the 10th frame. Did I say 253? I meant 256. Still had that 3 possibility of Steve-Nagy's in my mind, I imagine. Mind that works like this one, it's a little hard to tell what's in it from one moment to the next. This is the must ball in the 10th. Oh, and he leaves the 6-10 standing, which cuts down that possibility. So that lead will not be as great over Steve-Nagy going into this second game. And he has a chance here for 244 if he gets these 2. And knowing Eddie-Kawolics, he should. Look how far out to the left. He's right in line with the gutter, giving himself all the alley he can get in about 8 boards. And he's got it. He's got it. For his total count And that is some shooting. And for the first time in this series, Eddie-Kawolics wins the first game with a big 244 total. The winner of the first game, 244 to 200, is Eddie-Kawolics over Steve-Nagy, and we'll be back for the presentation in just a moment after this important message. The winner for the first time since he has been appearing here in the first game, 244 to 200, is Eddie-Kawolics. Come on out.
Hi, Joe.
Are you superstitious?
No, not a bit.
Okay, fine. Here is your 25 for winning. That was a real game after that railroad. Let's see how you guys can do in the second one.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, Eddie-Kawolics. We're ready for the big second game. Eddie-Kawolics, having won the first one, 244 to 200, he leads by 44 pins, and as we pointed out, this is the first time that Eddie has ever gone into the second game up, and you wonder what might happen there. Eddie, incidentally, has been surprisingly consistent in the third frame of his first game. He's had a railroad every time he's been here. There he goes with a strike. Eddie didn't like that ball and went up when he let it go. But it must have changed its mind on the way, because there's that strike for him. Steve-Nagy starting out on the sixth. This fellow, husky as you see, 5'10", weighs 199, 40 years old, on six. Oh, what a beautiful strike. What a beautiful strike. And they were practicing here before this match started. Steve-Nagy with a strike, Eddie-Kawolics with a strike. Eddie turned back to Matt Neeson, our producer and official judge here, and said, "Have you weighed these balls?" Inferring, of course, the way that strike was blasted in that practice session, that he must be using more than a 16-pound ball. All right, on five. And there it is. There it is. Steve-Nagy finally finds the range on alley 5, and Steve strings himself a double, and he needs all the strikes he can get here now to catch up to Eddie-Kawolics, who is rough with the lead. Eddie with one strike there, and going after that double if he can get it. Eddie, like Steve, is stocky, not quite as tall, 5'8", weighs 180. He's 46 years old. Boy, what a beautiful, beautiful strike ball that Kawolics throws. So each man has a double, and we're all even as we move down the line. Kawolics, however, enjoying a 44-pin lead for the match thus far. Eddie was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, was a star bowler in Cleveland, which is where Steve-Nagy hails from at the moment. Came here a few years back to bowl in the Classic League. He's a member of the King Louis bowling shirt team in that loop. He leaves the 10-pin standing. He was just a shade light on that, so Eddie will have to settle for a spare here in the third frame. Although he didn't catch the rail, he has failed at least to strike in the third frame of this second game. After the 10. He almost tipped over, he almost fouled on that, but saved himself for a spare. Holy mackerel. So Eddie-Kawolics has 49 through the second and a spare up. Steve-Nagy has a double working for him. Steve moving over to 6. Steve was born in Schoaf, Pennsylvania. Ooh, is that going to be good? It is, where he sat down there. I wondered if that might come up a little high on the nose, but it didn't, and there's a turkey working for Steve, and he's beginning to cut in here a little bit. He has a lead of 11 pins now in this game, and that cuts that 44 margin to 33 sticks on the match. Steve-Nagy with 30 through the first now, and this turkey going for him. 3 straight strikes. Steve moving over to 5. He hit this alley the last time. See if he can do it 2 times running. He can. Boy, this guy is dead. He is rough. So Steve-Nagy has 60 through the second now, and a double out in front of him on a 4-bagger. Eddie-Kawolics with 49 through the second and a spare up and down 11 pins. Eddie-Kawolics ready to go on 6. And Eddie is beginning to lose a little of that lead he enjoyed when he first started out. Eddie coming over on 6. And boy, man, what a strike. That one was really home, wasn't it? So Eddie-Kawolics has 69 through the third and a strike up now. He is down 2 marks as Steve-Nagy has 60 through the second and a double out in front of him on a string of 4. Mr. Kawolics down now. 19 pins. Correction, 21. Eddie on 5. He was light there. Woo. He was light there, and he's got a 2-7 rail to shoot for. So Eddie-Kawolics missed that rail in the 3rd frame, but he's caught it in the 5th here. And this one is going to be rather interesting to see how he will go for it. Lining up to the left of center. And apparently is going to play for his hook on the inside. Yeah, setting down in the middle. Trying to go between and dot. A beautiful, beautiful shot. So Eddie-Kawolics converts that rail. And he has 89 through the 4th and a spare working for him. Steve-Nagy with 60 through the 2nd and 2 out in front of him on a 4-bagger. Steve leading by 21 pins. He was down 44 coming into this match, so he's only 23 away. If Eddie had caught that rail, it would have done it. Steve on 6. Boy, the way that ball snaps in there, and Eddie almost injured his back on the body English of that one. So that gives him 96 through the 3rd, a double out in front of him first on the heels of a 5-bagger to Eddie-Kawolics, 89 through the 4th and a spare up. And Mr. Nagy continues to lead. Continues to lead by 21 pins, and project that it's 31 now. On 5, on 5, on 5, there it is! 6 straight strikes for Steve-Nagy. Man, oh man, this fellow is roaring back. He's got 120 through the 4th, a double out in front of him on the heels of a 6-bagger. Eddie-Kawolics with 89 through the 4th and a spare up, and Eddie is down 31 pins. He's lost 31 of those 44, which means he only has 13 to play with now. Eddie on 6, the alley on which he is dead. Look at it, look at it, look at it. Ah, just snapping in there at that last minute. So Eddie-Kawolics hangs on here with 109 through the 5th and a strike going for him. He is down 41 pins, however, he just has 3 of that lead he had as Steve-Nagy has strung 6 straight strikes. Eddie-Kawolics moving over to 5 now. Told you he had had his big moments too. In the ABC, for example, he's rolled 3 1900 series, 1964, 59, and 21. And there she is. There she is for Eddie-Kawolics, and he is a long way from through yet. As Eddie-Kawolics gives himself a double now. 109 through the 5th and a double working for him. Steve-Nagy working on 6 straight strikes and leading by 41 pins in this game. He's only 3 away on the match. On 6. How about it? 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 Eddie-Kawolics was afraid he might be a little high on that, but he sure wasn't, and there is 7 in a row. And that is an equal to the string we had here before when Eddie-Kawolics strung 7 to start out with. Now 150 through the 5th for Nagy and a double out in front of him. Eddie-Kawolics has 109 through the 5th and a double. Nagy up 41 pins. On 5. How about this? How about this? There it is! There it is! 8 straight strikes. The biggest string we have had toward a perfect game yet, and don't forget that perfect game carries $1,000 with it. Look at it. 180 through the 6th and a double out in front of him. Eddie-Kawolics with 109 through the 5th and a double working for him. And Eddie-Kawolics is still down 41 sticks in this game. He leads by 3 on the match. Boy, what a set this is. Eddie-Kawolics on 6. He's got to keep rolling. He's got to keep striking. He's got to keep striking. And he does. He does. There's a turkey for Eddie-Kawolics. And this match goes down right to the wire. Man, oh man. Kawolics still 41 pins away in this game as he shows now 139 through the 6th and 2 out in front of him. Steve-Nagy with 180 through the 6th and a double out in front of him. All right, Eddie-Kawolics moving over to 5 in the 9th frame. Boy, what a match.
Ready?
There she is. There she is, a 4-bagger for Eddie-Kawolics. Gee whiz. And Eddie-Kawolics with 169 through the 7th, 2 strikes to work on. Steve-Nagy is working on an 8-bagger. He is going for that grand if he can get it. On 6 in the 9th frame. How about it? How about it? How about it? He's got it. Right in the pocket. Right in the pocket. And he's got 2:10 through the 7th and 2 strikes to work on. Eddie-Kawolics with 169 through the 7th and a double working for him. And Mr. Nagy is really stringing him here. Nagy and his first ball in the 10th on 5. How about it? How about it? How about it? There it is. There it is. There it is. And he's going right over to that scoreboard to make sure. Right over to that scoreboard to make sure. Oh, man, this is the closest I've ever come to seeing a perfect game. This is the closest I've ever come. I've never seen a no-hitter in baseball. I've never seen a perfect game in bowling. I've never seen a hole-in-one, for that matter. How about it? How about it? One more ball. One more ball. Holy mackerel. One more ball. One more big shot. And Nagy has never seen this pair of alleys before at Fates Neeson in Chicago. Congratulations. I was saying before that last one, I'd never seen a perfect game before. I'd never seen a perfect game in baseball, a no-hitter. I'd never seen a hole-in-one, but I've seen that perfect game in bowling, and I rather imagine that's the first time a perfect game has ever been filmed. To my knowledge, I've never heard of one being done. Have you?
I had. Grass Castellani had it on TV in New York.
Did he? Did he?
That wasn't filmed, though.
Well, boy, oh, boy. Go sit down. You deserve it. You sure may. Steve-Nagy said, "Can I get a drink of water?" And the answer is emphatically yes. Holy mackerel. $1,000. Mr. Nagy just put away. He just put away a grand. All right, Eddie-Kawolics will try to make the best he can out of this game. And you notice Eddie was the first one out to congratulate Steve. He knows what those things mean. Eddie with 169 through the 7th and a double out in front of him. Eddie can have a big game here if he can finish out here. Come on, Eddie! Light he is. He leaves the dinner bucket. The 2, 4, 5, 8. So Eddie's chance to get a really big game here. Eddie could have got himself 255 game here if he had struck out, and that wouldn't have put him too far off the pace. He had a 44 pin advantage going into this game, so it would have put him down only 1 stick. Gosh, all fish hooks. 2, 4, 5, 8. He needs them all for another shot. And he's got him. He's got him. And it's still going to be a big game for Eddie-Kawolics with 2:15 through the 9th and a possibility here of 2:35. That'll put him down 65 on the match. He had 44 to start with, so it'll only put him 21 off going into the 3rd and final game. Holy mackerel, I've never seen bowling like this before in my life. Nagy said these alleys brought your confidence back. And how? And he leaves the 7-pin standing for a still excellent count. And so Eddie-Kawolics winds up with 234. And the winner of this, the most momentous game of bowling I have ever seen in my life, 300 to 234, is Steve-Nagy over Eddie-Kawolics. We'll be back with that big third one that tells the story and how in just a moment after this interesting message. Well, in all the weeks I've been coming out here to present money, I don't think I've ever come out here with quite as big a lump in my throat as I have right now. The winner of the second game, 300, count 'em, 300 to 234. He leads in the match 500 to 478. He picked up the 44 pins he was down and added 22 to those, which is the advantage he carries into the third game. The 300 bowler, Steve-Nagy. Let's build up to this thing, shall we? First of all, here's $25 for winning your game.
Thank you.
Eddie-Kawolics, your opponent, is always talking about making banquet money on this show. This ought to buy dinner for 3 or 4 people. $1,000 for your perfect game, Steve.
From what Eddie-Kawolics is, he's been here all week, and I like those quick jobs. You know, you come up and go, and you got to go back home.
Steve,
so
tell me,
I appreciate it a lot.
How many is this for you in the way of perfect games?
This is the 14th one. Not 14th one, but only one sanction.
Only one sanction. Yes, was there any ball in that entire string that there was any doubt in your mind on at all?
I think it was the 5th one on number 6 alley.
Was that the one where Eddie yelled, watch out?
Yeah, hold it. Yeah.
What happened on that one?
Well, that alley moves a little more, and I was short on my spot, and I thought I was going to run right through the middle.
I did too. Well, what do you think happened to hold it down there?
That's the luck.
I wish I had such luck. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Steve-Nagy. Let's see how you do in the third one. That's the luck, he says. That's the luck. Boy, such luck. Well, it's another game, the third game, and don't call Eddie-Kawolics out of this one yet. He's down only 22 pins, and he has been able to overcome these leads before. On 5. There it is! There it is! Eddie-Kawolics starting out the way he has to with a strike. Eddie is down 22 pins, 500 to 478. But bear in mind that the winner of $200 and the loser getting $100 is determined by total pins for the entire set. Nagy on 6. Well, that's the one I'm glad he didn't get in the second game. It looked like a perfect pocket hit, but there stands the 10-pin. Steve was telling about one other time when he got right down to that 12th ball and the 10-pin stood. Another time when he got down to the 12th ball, and he said the 7-pin never wiggled. After the 10. There it is for a spare for Steve-Nagy. So, Steve-Nagy starts out with a spare. Eddie-Kawolics starts out with a strike. And we move along to alley 5. Eddie-Kawolics down 22 pins, but this is a lead he can overcome. However, in his past matches, he went into the first one against Salvino, up 17, going into the third game. Here's Steve on 5. And he's got it. He's got it. A little on the cave-in side. But he's got it for his strike. So give Steve-Nagy 20 pins through the first and a strike up. Eddie-Kawolics started out with a strike. And this guy not only gives you the 300 game, he gives you the darndest show you've ever seen. Did you notice, incidentally, that Nagy is a 5-step bowler, Kawolics a 4-step bowler, using a 2-finger ball on 6. And there it is for a double for Eddie-Kawolics. And he's got his work cut out for him, and it's got to be terrific work as he picks up 10 of the 22 pins he is down on this match with that double. Steve-Nagy with 20 through the first and a single strike working for him. Eddie-Kawolics moving over to alley 5 now. Kawolics, I started to tell you about how he had gone into the third game. He went into his third game against Carter 29 up against Christoph. He was up 17. This is the first time he's ever gone into the last game down. All right, on 5. On 5. There it is. There it is. A turkey for Eddie-Kawolics. A turkey for Eddie-Kawolics. So Eddie has 30 through the first and a double out in front of him. Steve-Nagy with 20 through the first and a strike working for him. Steve has lost 10 of the 22 pins. He was up. Steve on 6. Look at that whip. Look at that whip come in there. Man, what a beautiful strike this fellow shows. So Steve now has 20 through the first and that double working for him to Kawolics 30 through the first and a double going for him on a string of 3. And Kawolics is still up 10 pins in this game, down 12 on the match. Nagy moving over to 5. Gosh, all fishhooks, I think this is the best match we've had in the entire series, and we've had some dandies. There it is! There it is! You begin to wonder if these fellows know anything but strikes as Nagy strings a turkey there, and now boosts that margin to 50 pins through the second and 2 to go on, with Kawolics 30 through the first on a turkey. Kawolics leading by 10 pins, trailing by 12 for the match. Gosh, the greatest bowling stars in the world, I think you will agree, have appeared here, and we're going to bring in more of them. Kawolics on 6! He was a little late. He was a little late, and he leaves the 5-7 rail. So Eddie-Kawolics is going to have to scratch for this one. It can be done. It can be done, but oddly enough, on this series, we've seen some almost impossible rails made. Buddy Bomar made the big 5. The 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, almost never seen. But the 5-7 has been one we have seen very little of in the way of conversion. Let's see if Eddie can do it. He's got it. Boy, oh boy, and that keeps him alive. It gives him 78 through the third and a spare up. Steve-Nagy's got 50 through the and a double going for him. Kawolics' lead cut now to 8 sticks, and it might even drop into a disadvantage. Eddie needs a strike here to keep pace. He went into this match down 22 on 5. There it is, a strike for Eddie-Kawolics that he had to have there. So Eddie-Kawolics then will show 98 sticks through the fourth and a strike up. Nagy with 50 through the second and a turkey working for him. 2 strikes out in front of that 50 pin. On 6. There it is! There it is! A 4-bagger for Steve-Nagy. Gee whiz, what shooting we've seen here today. And Steve-Nagy now has 80 through the third and 2 to work on. Eddie-Kawolics 98 through the fourth and a strike going, and Eddie has now dropped to 1 mark off, whereas he led by 10 pins. He is now off the pace. All right, on 5 for Nagy. Oh, and the 10-pin stands. The 10-pin stands after a string of 4. So Steve-Nagy is still vulnerable as far as Eddie-Kawolics is concerned. He leads Eddie by 11 pins here, 33 on the match after the 5. Oh, it just held. It just held. Oh, boy. So Mr. Nagy now has 129 through the fifth and a spare up. Eddie-Kawolics with 98 through the fourth and a strike going for him. Eddie is down, as you can see, 11 pins. And on the match now, he is down 33. Eddie on 6. He comes in too high, and he leaves the 4-7 standing. That almost looked as though it might have railroad written on it there for a while. But the 4-7 is the only leave, so Eddie-Kawolics is still clean, as they say, when they can stay away from those open frames. Right where he goes for his strike, but firm turn on it, and he's got the 4-7 for his spare. So Eddie-Kawolics has 118 through the fifth and a spare up. Steve-Nagy with 129 through the fifth and a spare up. Nagy leading by 11 pins in this game and by 33 on the series. Eddie-Kawolics moving over to 5. It's getting on down toward that 10th frame. If Eddie's going to get those 33 pins, he's got to scratch. On 5, on 5. There it is, there it is. There's his strike. He not only has to scratch, but he has to hope for Mr. Nagy to maybe draw an open, as Eddie-Kawolics has 138 through the sixth and a strike going for him. Steve-Nagy with 129 through the fifth and a spare up. Steve-Nagy ready to go. Steve, who now operates a bowling alley in Cleveland, and bowling 24 years, started when he was 16. Boy, he sure learned his lessons. On 6. Boy, you can see those things coming 6 feet away, can't you? Man, oh man. So Steve-Nagy has 149 through the sixth and a strike working for him. Eddie-Kawolics with 138 through the sixth and a strike up. Eddie's down 11 pins on this game. He trails by 33 on the match. And if Steve-Nagy can just keep himself clean, he is pretty well on toward home. On 5. And he leaves the 9 pin standing there. He leaves the 9 pin standing there. So this gives Eddie just a foot in the door. Just a foot in the door. Steve after that 9. Going over to the left side of the alley. Cross alley for it. Hooks in beautifully and has it. So Steve-Nagy with his spare in the 8th has 169 through the 7th, and that spare going for him. Eddie-Kawolics with 138 through the 6th and a strike up. Ellie down 11 in this game, 33 for the match. So can Eddie keep his string going? The 8th frame on alley 6. His pet lane. How about it? How about it? There it is. There it is. He's going to be a tough one to beat. He's like Junie McMahon. He doesn't give you anything. So Eddie has 138 through the 6th, and that double going for him. Steve-Nagy with 169 through the 7th and a spare up, and to all intents and purposes, we're just about even on this game now. 1 pin advantage for Nagy here, but remember, he carried in that advantage of 22. Eddie-Kawolics in the 9th frame on 5. If he gets by this one. He does. It's a turkey for Eddie-Kawolics. So that gives Mr. Kawolics 168 through the 7th and 2 strikes out in front of him. He's 1 pin down here. He's 23 down on the match. Steve-Nagy on 9 with a spare going for him. And he's got it. He's got that strike that he had to have. Boy, oh boy. So that gives Steve 189 through the 9th and a strike working for him. But Eddie-Kawolics now leads by 9 pins. Eddie-Kawolics leading by 9. He needed 23, so he's 14 away. Steve in his first ball in the 10th frame. This will just about tell it. There it is. There it is. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, what a bowler this guy is. What a bowler this guy is. That first all-important strike in the 10th frame. And Mr. Nagy isn't superstitious about looking at that scoreboard. He goes over and checks it every second. And if he can get this one, he's home free. Come on, Steve! And he does! He does! Oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. He's got a 249 game in the making here. Now, if Eddie-Kawolics could strike out, he could have a 259 game, which would not be enough. There is Steve. Last ball, and he strikes out. He goes the route. Boy, what shooting. What shooting. 249 for Steve-Nagy. And that gives him 749 for this set, the biggest series we have had yet. Carmen Salvino's 242 was tops, or 742, I should say, was tops up to this. All right, Eddie-Kawolics, he can come close, but the issue is sealed now. His first ball in the 10th frame on 6. And there stands that 10 pin. Well, we wanted to see him finish just as closely as he could. But this not only has given us a perfect 300 game and $1,000 to Steve-Nagy for it, but it has also given us by all odds the biggest series on total pins we have had. Our biggest one yet, if memory serves me right, was 1420. Kawolics after the 10 pin. And has it. He's got it. Giving him one more shot there in the 10th. So Eddie-Kawolics has 217 through the 9th, and he can have a 237 game here, which would mean he would have lost this by only 12 pins and the match by only 34. And as Eddie said, there's nothing you can do about a 300 game. When the guy throws it at you, it's just, that's it. Well done. Well done. And I call that some bowling by Eddie-Kawolics, the biggest stand we have had yet. Eddie winding up with 237. So the winner of the 3rd game, 249 to 237, is Steve-Nagy over Eddie-Kawolics, and we'll be back with the presentation of the awards in just a moment after this important message. Well, this is the most sensational bowling we have seen in this series, and probably some of the most sensational bowling all of us have ever seen, period. Just take a look at these scores. The winner of the third game, 249 to 237, was Steve-Nagy over Eddie-Kawolics. This gave Nagy the highest series we have had thus far, a 749, which topped Carmen Salvino's 742. It gave him a lead of 34 pins on the match, 749 to Eddie-Kawolics' 715. The two bowlers totaled 1,464 pins, which was 41 better than any two combined bowlers we have had thus far. 1,423 was the best previous total. We saw a 300 game, and what will you have for dessert? First of all, let's have the guy out here who shot 729, 719, 737, and 715. Today he was never under 700, and 715 wasn't good enough. Eddie-Kawolics. Well, I'd say you qualified for immortality even in losing, wouldn't you?
Well, I don't know, Joe. This guy was really a buzzsaw.
Boy.
I should have kept him in Cleveland.
As you said, there's nothing you can do about a 300 game,
No
is there?
defense against a 300, and boy, they were all in there, but good.
Well, Eddie,
Wonderful shooting.
Here's your check for $100 for the loser. It was the best showing we've had thus far by any man, and we certainly enjoyed having you on.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, let's have Mr. 300 himself out here, Steve-Nagy. Well, you told me before you started here that these alleys gave you confidence. How much do you have now?
Oh, it's hard to say. This game it does that to you. One day you feel, well, you're going to drop the ball in the lake, and then the next day you shoot good, and then you're going to kill everybody, and then you get chewed up again. And that's the way it keeps going.
Well, you didn't get chewed up today. First of all, $25 for winning that game.
Thank you.
Next, $200 for being the winner of this match. Will we see you next week?
I hope to.
All right,
this is
fine.
nice to take home.
Good. We'll look for you. Thank you, Steve. Boy, I wonder still if I'm ever going to breathe normally again. Man, oh man. Buddy, come on out here and talk a little bit about this thing, will you?
Oh, wait for me, Joe. I've been sitting back there with, I don't know, on pins and needles. I got more excited over that one than any perfect game I ever shot in my life.
Well, you've shot enough of them. What do you think about when you get down toward the
Oh,
end?
Joe, I don't know. I thought about everything when Steve was up there. I don't know. You'd have thought I was shooting it, and I think it was that way all over the house. I think everybody's more nervous than Steve. Steve taking it very calm.
By golly, he didn't seem to be very excited, did he?
No, none whatsoever.
Well, Buddy, tell me this. In all justice to Steve and this tremendous thing that he's done, actually, do you bowl when you shot your perfect games? Did you bowl any better on a 300 game than you did, say, on a 279 or a 280 game?
Well, first let me say, Joe, I don't think I've ever seen anyone bowl a perfect game any more perfect than Steve's was. They were all in there, all good hits and good solid hits, and there was no doubt about any of them, especially those last three. They just flew off of there.
Well, assuming that you got one, where you get a few wobblers in there, couldn't it be that sometimes the one where you missed early actually technically might have been a better game?
Yes, that's true, Joe, but that's mainly because of pressure. You shoot those 258s where, after all, you get two spares in there. You shoot a 279 with one, but those spares might come in the early part of the game, and there's no pressure on you. When you're rolling 300, every strike you get, then you're, after all, looking forward to the next one. But I don't think the real pressure hits up until you get 10 in a row, because you know you've got to have 11, then you have a chance. And if you get that 11th one, then you have the possibility, and only at that time, for you to shoot 300.
That's when you start to sag. Is there a tendency to press at that point?
You press a little on that 11th one, you squeeze that ball pretty tight. Sometimes it's hard to get off your hand. However, it came off of Steve's all right. But where you... I don't know. There seems to be a little letdown on that 12th one because At that point, you kind of depend on fate a little bit, and you think, well, if I'm going to get it, it's meant to be, and I'll just throw it. But Steve didn't. Bang, bang, bang. There they went in there.
Fate was with him, wasn't it?
You bet, and he'd really deserved it.
Thank you very much,
Joe.
buddy. Buddy Beaumark. Well, speaking of fate, he's going to need a little bit of fate in spite of what you've seen Steve-Nagy do here, because next week we're going to bring in a Chicagoan who in 1953 won the Masters champion, Rudy Bettler. Till then, Joe Wilson, good bowling, everyone.